The scream echoed through the marble hallway just after midnight. Clara froze beside the silver serving cart, her fingers tightening around the tray so hard the glasses rattled against each other. Then came the second sound. A man's voice. Low. Threatening. "If she finds out," he hissed, "everything is over." Clara's breath caught in her throat. She stood perfectly still outside the private study of the Hawthorne mansion, her heart pounding so violently she thought they might hear it through the walls. Rain hammered against the giant windows of the estate while lightning flashed across the hallway in pale bursts. Inside the room, another voice trembled. "We already went too far, Marcus." Clara recognized that voice instantly. Victoria Hawthorne, the billionaire's wife, her employer. And she sounded terrified. Clara swallowed hard. She should walk away. That was the first rule of surviving in wealthy houses. See nothing. Hear nothing. Ask nothing. But then she heard something that made her blood run cold. The girl can never know she's alive. Silence. Complete silence. Clara stopped breathing. Alive? Who was alive? And why were they hiding it? Suddenly, footsteps, moving toward the door. Clara panicked. She grabbed the cart and pushed it quickly down the hallway, nearly slipping on the polished floor as the study door creaked open behind her. "Who's there?" Marcus barked. Clara kept walking, steady, calm. Don't run, don't look back. The giant grandfather clock chimed downstairs as sweat slid down her spine beneath her maid uniform. She turned the corner just as Marcus stepped into the hallway. For one terrifying second, their eyes met. His expression hardened instantly, suspicious, dangerous. Clara lowered her gaze quickly. "Sorry, sir," she whispered. "I was taking the glasses downstairs." Marcus stared at her for several seconds too long, then finally nodded. "Go." Clara walked away on shaking legs. But deep inside, she knew something terrible had just happened. And somehow, she was now part of it. Before we go deeper into this story, take a second and hit that subscribe button, give this video a like, and let us know where you're watching from. I'm curious to know how far these stories travel, because what Clara heard that night would destroy one of the most powerful families in New York and expose a secret buried for 23 years. 3 years earlier, Clara Bennett never imagined she'd end up working inside the home of billionaires. At 26, she was barely surviving. Her mother's hospital bills had swallowed everything she earned as a waitress in Brooklyn. Then came the eviction notice, then the second job, then the exhaustion. Life had become an endless cycle of surviving 1 week at a time. Until one rainy afternoon, she saw the listing. Live-in housekeeper needed private estate excellent pay. No experience necessary. At first, Clara almost ignored it. Places like that didn't hire women like her, but desperation has a way of silencing pride. 2 days later, she stood nervously at the massive iron gates of Hawthorne Manor. The estate looked unreal. 3 fountains, private gardens, luxury cars lined across the driveway. It looked less like a home and more like a palace hidden from the world. That was the first time Clara met Victoria Hawthorne. And unlike the cold, rich women Clara expected, Victoria was kind, gentle, elegant. "You look nervous," Victoria had said warmly during the interview. Clara laughed awkwardly. "A little." Victoria smiled softly. "Don't be. Most people are terrified of this house." At the time, Clara thought it was a joke. Later, she realized it wasn't, because behind the perfect dinners, the charity galas, the polished smiles, the Hawthorne family was rotting from the inside. Marcus Hawthorne, the billionaire tech magnate, ruled the mansion with quiet intimidation. The staff feared him. Even Victoria seemed smaller when he entered a room. And then there was Adrian, their son, 32, cold, sharp-eyed, always distant. Clara rarely spoke to him, but sometimes she caught him watching his father with a strange resentment, as if he knew something nobody else did. Still, for 3 years, Clara stayed silent. She cleaned rooms, served dinners, avoided trouble, until the night she heard the secret through the wall. And after that, everything changed. The next morning, Clara tried convincing herself she imagined it. Maybe she misunderstood. Maybe it was none of her business. But Marcus's behavior changed immediately. At breakfast, his eyes followed her constantly, watching, calculating. Even Victoria looked pale and distracted. Twice, Clara noticed bruises near her wrist hidden beneath makeup. Something was wrong in that house. Deeply wrong. Later that afternoon, Clara was assigned to clean the West Wing, an area usually locked. As she dusted the shelves inside an old sitting room, she noticed something strange. A loose panel behind a painting. Curiosity pulled at her. Slowly, she slid the panel open. Inside sat a small wooden box, and inside the box, photographs. Old photographs. One showed a younger Victoria holding a little girl with curly dark hair. Another showed Marcus beside them, though his expression looked oddly tense. But it was the final picture that made Clara's stomach drop. Written across the back in faded ink were the words, Emily, age 6, summer before the accident. Clara frowned. Emily? She had worked there for years. The Hawthornes only had one child, Adrian. So who was Emily? And why had every trace of her been hidden? Suddenly, footsteps approached. Clara shoved the box back just as the door opened. Adrian stood there. His gaze moved from Clara to the crooked painting. Instantly, his expression darkened. What are you doing here? I was cleaning. Adrian walked slowly toward her. Too slowly. You shouldn't touch things that don't belong to you. Clara's chest tightened. For a moment, she thought he knew. Then Adrian surprised her. Quietly, he said, If you heard something last night, forget it. Clara stared at him. Her silence answered everything. Adrian cursed under his breath, then looked toward the hallway before speaking again. My father is dangerous, Clara. It was the first time he'd ever called her by her name. You need to stay away from this. But who's Emily? Clara whispered. Adrian froze, and for the first time since she met him, she saw fear in his eyes. Before we continue, take a second and share your thoughts so far on this story below. I read every single one, because honestly, if you were Clara in that moment, would you walk away from the secret or keep digging deeper? Adrian stepped closer. You need to pretend you never heard that name. Why? Because Emily was supposed to be dead. That night, Clara couldn't sleep. The storm outside had returned, rattling the windows while questions spun endlessly inside her head. Who was Emily? Why was she hidden? And what exactly had happened 23 years ago? Around 2 a.m., Clara quietly left her room and slipped downstairs toward the library. She knew Marcus kept old newspapers archived there. If Emily had died publicly, there had to be records. After nearly an hour of searching, Clara finally found it. A yellowed newspaper clipping dated 23 years earlier. Tech billionaire's daughter presumed dead after car crash. Clara's pulse quickened. According to the article, 6-year-old Emily Hawthorne vanished after a car plunged into a river during a storm. Her body was never found. Victoria survived. Marcus survived. Emily disappeared. The case was eventually closed, but something about the article felt wrong. Very wrong. Because Victoria's interview photo looked identical to the fear Clara saw in her eyes now. Not grief. Fear. Suddenly, a voice behind her spoke. She never believed Emily died. Clara spun around. Victoria stood in the doorway wearing a silk robe, tears shining in her eyes. Clara panicked. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have. It's all right, Victoria interrupted softly. For several moments, neither woman spoke. Then Victoria whispered, My daughter was taken from me. Clara's breath caught. What do you mean? Victoria slowly sat down. And finally, the truth began to unravel. Marcus had built his empire through corruption, blackmail, and dangerous partnerships. Years ago, he planned to leave everything to Adrian. But Emily had discovered something she shouldn't have. Documents, accounts, proof. Marcus panicked. Then suddenly, the accident happened. Victoria never believed it, not fully. And now, after all these years, Marcus had received news that Emily might still be alive. Clara's heart pounded violently. "So, the conversation last night?" Victoria nodded slowly. "He's trying to find her before anyone else does." "And if he does?" Victoria's face broke. "I'm afraid my husband will finish what he started." The next morning, Clara couldn't stop thinking about Emily. Alive. Somewhere. Possibly hunted by her own father. But why tell Clara any of this? Why trust a maid? That answer came faster than she expected. 3 days later, Clara was sent into the city to deliver documents to one of Marcus's offices downtown. Afterward, while waiting near a subway station, she noticed a woman arguing with a street vendor nearby. At first, Clara barely looked up. Then the woman turned, and Clara froze. Curly dark hair, sharp green eyes, the exact same eyes from the hidden photograph. The woman looked older now, maybe 29, but unmistakably familiar. Emily. Clara's heart nearly stopped. At that exact moment, black SUVs pulled up across the street. Men stepped out. Marcus's security team. Emily noticed them too. Panic flashed across her face. Then she ran. Without thinking, Clara chased after her. The crowded subway station exploded into chaos as commuters shoved past each other. "Wait!" Clara shouted. Emily looked back fearfully. "You need to hide!" 2 security men pushed through the crowd behind them. Clara grabbed Emily's arm and dragged her through a maintenance hallway just before the guards reached them. Both women collapsed behind a metal door, breathing hard. Emily stared at Clara suspiciously. "Who are you?" "My name is Clara. I work at the Hawthorne estate." Instant distrust filled Emily's face. "You work for Marcus?" "No. I mean, yes, but I'm trying to help you." Emily laughed bitterly. "That family stopped being my family a long time ago." Then Clara asked the question carefully. "Did your father try to kill you?" Emily's silence said everything. "Before we go deeper, I would love to hear your point of view. Tell me what part hit you the hardest in the story, and share your thoughts in the comments. Because imagining a father capable of hunting his own daughter for decades, that's the kind of betrayal that changes a person forever." Emily finally spoke. The crash wasn't an accident. And what she revealed next would change Clara's life forever. Emily explained everything in fragments. Years ago, she accidentally overheard Marcus threatening one of his business partners. She found hidden financial records proving he'd destroyed companies and ruined innocent families. Marcus discovered she knew too much. Days later, during a stormy drive, the car suddenly veered toward the river. Emily remembered screaming, Victoria crying, Marcus locking the doors, then icy water, chaos. But someone pulled Emily out before the car sank. A fisherman. He hid her after realizing powerful men were searching for the child. Marcus publicly declared her dead. And Emily spent 23 years living under different identities. Always running, always hiding. Clara sat speechless. But why come back now? Emily's face hardened. Because my mother's dying. Clara froze. Victoria never mentioned being sick. Emily continued. I've been watching from a distance for years. Marcus controls everyone around him, the police, politicians, lawyers. But recently, he started moving money again. For what? Emily looked directly at Clara. To disappear forever. Back at the mansion, Marcus was preparing something. And suddenly, Clara realized something terrifying. If Marcus suspected Emily had returned, Victoria might already be in danger. The 2 women rushed out of the subway station, but as they reached Clara's car, a black SUV screeched in front of them. Marcus's men. Emily cursed. Run! One guard grabbed Clara violently, another lunged toward Emily, but before they could drag them away. A gunshot echoed through the street. Everyone froze. Adrian stood nearby holding the weapon, his face pale. Get in the car, he shouted. Clara and Emily jumped inside as Adrian sped away through traffic. For several minutes, nobody spoke. Finally, Adrian looked into the rearview mirror at Emily. His voice cracked slightly. "I thought you were dead." Emily stared back coldly. "That's what your father wanted." When they returned to the mansion, chaos had already begun. Police cars lined the driveway. Ambulances flashed red and blue across the rain-soaked estate. Victoria had collapsed. Heart complications. As doctors rushed her inside, Marcus stormed into the foyer and froze at the sight of Emily. For the first time in decades, the billionaire looked afraid. "Impossible," he whispered. Emily stepped forward slowly. "You should have made sure I died." Marcus's expression twisted instantly into rage. "You have no idea what you're talking about." But Adrian interrupted. "No, father. I think she does." Marcus turned toward his son in disbelief. Adrian pulled out a folder. The hidden financial records. For years, Adrian had secretly collected evidence against him. He suspected the truth long ago. He simply lacked proof. Until Clara found Emily. Everything exploded after that. Federal agents arrived within the hour. Marcus tried denying everything, threatening everyone, bribing officials. But the evidence was overwhelming. Money laundering, fraud, conspiracy, attempted murder, and finally, the truth about Emily. Victoria watched from upstairs in tears as officers dragged Marcus away in handcuffs beneath flashing cameras. The mighty billionaire empire collapsed in one night, all because one maid overheard a secret through the wall. At this point in the story, I honestly want to ask you something personal. If you were Adrian, would you turn against your own father to protect the truth? Or would loyalty to family still hold you back? Let me know in the comments because this part divides a lot of people. As Marcus was pushed into the police vehicle, he looked directly at Clara. Hatred burned in his eyes. "You ruined everything." But Clara finally understood something. The truth was already destroying him long before she arrived. She simply exposed it. 6 months later, the Hawthorne mansion looked completely different. Quieter, lighter, alive again. Victoria survived her surgery and began rebuilding her relationship with Emily slowly, carefully, like two strangers learning how to become family again. Adrian left the company and started cooperating with investigators, and Clara, for the first time in years, felt free. Victoria offered her a management position overseeing the family's charitable foundation, but more importantly, she offered her gratitude. "You saved my daughter," Victoria told her one afternoon. Clara smiled softly. "No, she saved herself." Outside, sunlight poured across the gardens where Emily stood laughing with Adrian. A family broken by lies was finally healing. And Clara realized something powerful. Sometimes the smallest people inside a powerful house see the truth more clearly than anyone else, because they're invisible. And invisible people hear everything. Before this story ends, tell me honestly, what do you think changed Clara the most? Hearing the secret, meeting Emily, or realizing that powerful people can hide darkness behind perfect smiles? I'd really love to hear your thoughts below. That evening, Clara walked past the same hallway where everything began. The same wall, the same study. Only now the silence felt different. Peaceful. No more secrets hidden behind doors. No more fear inside the mansion. Just the truth. And freedom. Thank you for staying with me through this emotional story. If this story touched you in any way, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to Underestimated Saga, and share your biggest takeaway from Clara's journey in the comments. Your support truly helps these stories reach more people, and I appreciate every single one of you.